Hi everyone, it's Kathie. Thanks so much for joining me. Today I have an alternate card share and it is featuring the April 2020 Paper Pumpkin kit, and I have 5 cards that I'll be sharing with you. I did get the kit early, so I did already create the unboxing video, but we're just going to have a quick look at the stamp set, nice and close, and then we'll just zip through the content because I'm sure that you've all seen what's inside. Okay, so a couple of updates. I did finally rejoin Stampin' Up, so I'm glad I finally did it, and hopefully it'll be a good change for me, which I think it will, because I did join with someone more local. So it'll be a whole new adventure, that's for sure. All right, the other thing is that I've been kind of down and out for like a month, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And anyway, I finally went to the doctor, and she told me I had a super duper mild case of shingles. Like, hello. Where'd this come from? Anyway, so I do feel pretty lucky that I didn't get a really bad case, but I didn't realize that shingles gave you like this nerve pain, because that's what I was experiencing. I didn't know why my right side was hurting for a good week and a bit, and then it went away, and then it came right back, which is really strange. So when it came back the second time, that's when I said, uh-oh, I better go see the doctor, and then that's when she discovered it on my back. And yeah, I was kind of itchy, but nothing major, it's kind of weird. Anyway, so I'm getting over it now and feeling a lot better, but I do have some aches here and there. But anyway, enough of me. We're going to jump into the first card, and we're going to start off with Balmy Blue, Stampin' Write marker. We're going to use one of the leaves, and this time I decided I'm going to take all of the bits and bobs out so I don't have to struggle and lose pieces and whatnot. And I put them all in these Stampin' Storage toppers. So I thought that'd be a great idea. So far it's working out pretty good, but is it keeping me organized? Well, kinda. All right, so starting off with that leaf, I am going to add some details. So kind of leafy details, and I'm using the fine tip of this marker and just kind of lightly drawing in the lines, and then I just kind of go a little bit heavier in the center, because you want that center part to be more defined to show that it's got a center. And what we're going to be creating here is not really leaves. We're going to add the detail, and then we're going to cut the 4 pieces out, and then afterwards then we'll just cut little slits on the sides going in the same direction of the leaf, so that will create some feathers. All right. So once you're happy with the details, I do want that center part dark, so that's why I'm overly fussing. And now I'm ready to shape each one of these, and it's okay that they're all different sizes. All right, so we're going to shape the first feather, and we're just going to add little slits on each side. So there's the first one, and then see how it kind of has that jaggedy look? Now you can leave it like that, or you can trim it back to soften the edges. So tiny little slits. You got to be really patient with this part because it does take some time. And I have to say this was probably the most challenging part of this card. Okay, so this is the part where I'm cutting back that point on the sides of the feather. And I'm just kind of smoothing it out going towards the center part. And that way it gives it kind of a softer look. And then here's where I'm just doing some extra fussing. Okay, and then we're going to move on to the next part. I'm using black VersaFine ink, and then we're going to stamp the Happy Father's Day stamp, and then we'll raise each one of those feathers. And once I've done that, I'm just going to do a quick dry run on the placement. And I'm using my tweezers, which really helps you place it where you want it. All right, and then we'll raise this panel onto another panel, and I'll have the dimensions for each one of them on the screen. And I felt it needed something else other than the enamel dots that came in the kit. So I'm using my rhinestones in my stash, and I think that was the perfect accent for the card. And then I mounted it onto a balmy blue panel and then onto a top folding card base. So I really like how that one turned out. Now on to card number 2. I did show you quickly on the screen the little green piece, which I cut off of one of the card bases. And it's a 3/4 inch piece, which fits perfectly across a regular A2 card. And then I'm using a heavy card base, and I just cut it back just under 3/4 of an inch, because when you fold it close, you want it to slightly overlap on top of the green accent piece there. All right, moving on to the leftover leaf piece from the first card. I'm using a fine tip Sharpie marker, and I'm just drawing in the leaf details on 3 of the leaves. And now we're just going to color it in. So Melon Mambo, Granny Apple Green, and Daffodil Delight. And I'm just using my sponge dauber, and I'm just kind of dabbing the color on the leaves, a couple of them here and there. And then we'll do the same with the Granny Apple Green. And we'll just leave a little bit of space for the Melon Mambo also. So don't cover it too much, because we have 3 colors. And I did reload my ink pads last weekend, so they're pretty dark and juicy. All right, so Melon Mambo, we'll just add that last color in. And I think I go back lightly with the Daffodil Delight just to semi-blend everything in. And then for the center part of the leaves, I'm using the Granny Apple Green marker and just darkening up that center there just to give it a little bit more depth. Okay, and once you're happy with that, we'll just snip back the leaves and shape them. And then we're going to move back to the card base, and we're going to stamp the sentiment. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping here and there, because when you're planning out a card, sometimes I just don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so each of the leaves, we're going to raise it with dimensionals. And again, I'm using my handy dandy tweezers. And then afterwards, the kind of stem part of the leaves, I decided to glue those down. And I actually like that. So just the stem part, I glue it down flat on the card base there, and it gives it another little look. So, and then also I added 4 of the adhesive dots that came in the kit, and that's it. So this is a, what do you call that? A 1 card base card? There's a name for it, but I can't remember what it is. All right, so I really like how that one turned out. And then we're going to move on to card number 3. And this one is kind of pretty. I think it would be perfect for a Mother's Day card. Okay, so we're using the largest sentiment that came in the kit, and I'm stamping it slightly to the left of the panel. I don't know why, but I decided to do that. And I did create a mock for this one, and I didn't follow it exactly because it was just kind of overboard in my opinion. So I redid it, and it only took me like 15 minutes to redo. So I was kind of surprised with that. It's actually a really easy card to make. Now I do have a butterfly there just kind of helping me with the placement of these leaves. And I was really trying not to overdo it like I did on the first card. So I'm happy with just the 4, and then we're going to stick down 3 of the butterflies. But before I do, I'm going to stamp the tiny ones that came in that stamp set, the one that has like 3 trailing butterflies. So that's just going to be an additional accent to this card, and I'm stamping it with Blushing Bride. Okay, and then once we're done with that, we're going to raise the butterflies with dimensionals. And then we'll add some adhesive dots onto the card. And then I think I put 1 on the butterflies, a green one. So that's it for this one too. It is also a 1 card base card. Super easy, right? Okay, moving on to the next card. This one is a little bit more detail. So Blushing Bride, Pacific Point, and we're going to do some white heat embossing. And I have Versamark ink there, a butterfly, a tree, and I have a Whisper White panel. All right, so we're going to start off with the leaf stamp, and I'm just going to do it one side at a time. So we're going to do some embossing, and because the Versamark is hard to see, you got to kind of keep lifting the panel so you can get a glare of where you've stamped, because you don't want to overlap and nor do you want to crowd the image. So you want to make sure it's pretty evenly spaced or it'll look kind of weird. So I'm just going to do it one side at a time. So here's the first side, just to give you an idea how far up I went. All right, so I fast forward with all of the stamping and then I heat embossed it off screen, and you'll probably catch a quick glimpse of it all completed before we add the ink to it. And now here's the magic. I'm using Pacific Point, and we're just going to load up each side with the Pacific Point. And it looks kind of weird right now, but we're going to hit it with a damp cloth to clean off the ink, and the white will just shine right through. So we'll just ink that real good all the way around. And then once you're happy with that, then I'll just grab a damp cloth. Now I used a baby wipe and it's pretty wet, so you just got to be careful that you don't overdo it, because then your panel will start warping. So I did swipe it very quickly. I didn't lollygate too much, even though I swiped it like 3-4 times. And then I went over it with a dry paper towel. So I like how it turned out. All right, so we're just going to stick that onto a top folding card base. And then onto the tree, we're just going to slice that off, the short branch. And I cut it in a slight angle too. And then I'm going to glue it down kind of near the bottom and then cut any of the excess off. And then I decided I'm going to stamp the sentiment next. And then with Blushing Bride, I'm using that little stamp with the tiny butterflies. So we're going to stamp 3 of those as accents. And then with Melamambo on the back side of the butterfly, we're going to load up the center part of that. And then just a little bit on the wings on each side, a little bit at the bottom. And then once you're happy with that, we're going to bring in the Blushing Bride to kind of blend in that Melamambo, and then also leave a little bit of white areas if you can, so that'll add some extra depth to this butterfly. You could leave it the yellow color, but I really wanted a different color butterfly. All right, so I decided to add the green adhesive dots to each of the points of the branch, and then a couple on the butterfly. And then we'll raise that panel and center it onto the embossed panel, and that's it. All done. Okay, the 5th card. Now, this is going to be a hydrangea. I did note it on the written instructions, but this is my take. And when I saw the stamp set, that's what came to my mind. And then I realized later on that it was actually an alternative that was written in the instructions. But, oh well, I'm going to do it. I decided to leave this little footage in. So I actually stamped this originally and also stamped it with Blushing Bride, but I just wasn't happy with it. And it just didn't have the right shape, in my opinion, anyway, because I'm very picky. So I decided that I'm going to re-stamp it. And that's why it looked a little different. And I think because when I put it onto this, I think it's Blushing Bride panel here, it just didn't look right to me. I did try to shape it a little bit more and it just wasn't happening. So I decided to move on to the leaf piece and just note how I snipped them all back. So everything's cut back except for the bottom, and that one little stem that's sticking out next to the leaf that I left on there, you want to make sure you don't cut that one off. Okay, so I've restamped the image, and see how I'm stamping around it this time, and I'm going past the image with the Pacific point, and this time I did not stamp off. So I'm just going to allow it to kind of fade on its own. And then also I've decided to go with the Melon Mambo because the Blushing Bride just kind of gave it that too gray of a tone, and I wanted something a little bit more happy. So again, just make sure you go past the image, and that way it takes away that mushroom look. So now it's kind of more of an oval, and it's got a little bit of life to it because it's going past the image. I don't know. That's my thinking. All right, so we're going back to the leaf, and then the two pieces that we chopped off, we're just going to place it in a downward position. So we're going to glue those two down, and then the top part of the flower, we're just going to raise that with a dimensional. And there's my flower. All right, so note how I've cut back each of these butterflies. I chopped on the left side of the body on the first butterfly, and then the right on the other one. And then you grab the two pieces, and then you create side view butterflies. So I thought I wanted two, where each butterfly is facing in different directions, but then I realized that I just want the one facing in that direction that I stuck down with dimensionals, and then a full butterfly on the flower. And then I did need an accent, so I cut back a flap on one of the envelopes, and I'm sticking that down. And then I decided to cut a strip of the pretty ribbon that came in the kit. So we'll stick that down next to the green strip, and then to reinforce that ribbon, I added some glue dots to it. And then there's that sentiment. I used the label that came in the kit, but it was just too wide for me. I wanted something a little more daintier, so I did trim it back to a nice thin label. And that's it. I put some more adhesive dots on it and a couple on the butterfly. So that's the card, and that's my take. All right, we're going to jump into the stills of each of the finished cards. I hope you enjoyed today's card share. And yeah, after this, I do have a quick summary of all 5 of the cards. And if you're interested in trying out Paper Pumpkin and you're in Canada, you are welcome to order it through me. I'm freshly back into the Stampin' Up! World, so I would absolutely appreciate your business. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me again. Take care. Bye for now.